Hello and welcome to Midwest Writers Room. Our mission is to encourage, educate, and celebrate writers of the Midwest. I'm Luella Schmidt.
And I'm Ken Humphrey. Today's Chapter Break episode features Brad H. Hill and his latest publication, No One is Normal, Breaking Free from Normal, Short Stories of Struggle, Adversity, and Self-Discovery, which came out in 2025.
Brad's collection of raw and honest short stories explore struggle, identity, and the pressure to live up to society's idea of normal. Drawing from personal experience and real life observations, Brad writes about adversity, resilience, addiction, personal growth, and the complicated paths people take to find themselves. His work resonates with readers who have ever felt like they didn't quite fit the mold. Brad is also the host of the No One is Normal podcast, where he continues the conversation by exploring the deeper stories behind personal transformation and self discovery.
Interesting. As people who are neither normal, Luella and I are going to be really looking forward to this episode. But let's take a quick look at the book itself. No One is Normal is a powerful collection of short stories that challenge the idea that anyone's life follows a normal path. Through deeply personal experiences and honest reflection, Brad explores themes of adversity, addiction, resilience, identity, and the difficult lessons that shape who we become. Rather than presenting life as a tidy self help formula, the book reveals the messy reality of growth and the strength that can emerge from struggle. Each story invites readers to reflect on their own journey and reminds them that the parts of life that make us feel different may actually be the things that define our strength.
It's going to be a great discussion, Brad. We're so happy to have you here with Midwest Writers Room. How you doing today?
Good. Thanks, Ken. Thanks, Luella. Appreciate you having me on the show, and I'm doing great. Thanks for asking.
All right. Well, let's dive into it. And as we often do on these chapter break episodes, before we talk about the book itself, we got to talk about you, Brad, kind of your background, your origin story. So, did you grow up thinking you would ever write a book? I mean, is writing in your background? How did you come about this?
Well, growing up, I was always into writing quite a bit. Whether it was papers, everything else, I always seemed to excel at that. Everything else I was pretty good at, but it seemed like writing, I always good at structure and kind of building out a story, whether it's reports or whether it was business analysis when I was going to the college, So I always had that kind of drive to write, and I could polish pretty well what I wrote.
All right. Very cool. Wish I could say the same. I don't think I actually had those talents. So, with that background, how did the story come about? I mean, and really what I'm asking is how did this story kind of crystallize in your mind as something that I need to write a book about?
Well, I think a lot of us, when we start to get older, we kind of reflect at our lives and kind of start looking at things and trying to understand the kind of the why of our lives, right? And a lot of what I started doing was from journaling. So I'd start writing kind of some stories, kind of what I can get some takeaways from it for myself. That's kind of where it started. This whole book is a bunch of journaling of different stories that it has kind of something that happened in my life, how I kind of overcame it. And then it has my reflection after going over that chapter. And then it also asks the reader to about five or six questions, depending on it, each chapter. And then it kind of asks them to reflect on their life and their situation, if it's similar, and it gives them that opportunity to kind of to get to the journaling and kind of help with that self-healing process.
Yeah, that's very cool, very admirable. So, when you finish the book, who would you describe was the target audience? I mean, who do you really write this book for?
Yeah, it's actually quite a few people, right? I think a lot of the people that have had struggles have had addiction issues, or for me, it was like having an absent father and not having that structure in my life, and you could easily sit and just blame everybody and everything and then just sit there and never improve yourself, right? But I wanted to make it a point that no matter what happens, that's just a part of a chapter. That's not the whole your whole story.
All right. Excellent. Excellent. So there, as noted in your bio, there's a companion podcast with that. So, since we're on a podcast here and I like to kind of chat industry with fellow podcasters, and let's talk about that. How do you find your guests to come onto your show? And really, what is kind of the core theme or topic that you cover?
Uh, there's a few avenues. I use Podmatch. That's a pretty good avenue. It's pretty reasonable, and you get a lot of people who are authors, have stories, traumas in their life they overcame. A lot of it is I kind of talk with the person, ask some questions of their past, what happened, and hopefully how they overcome it and how they can help other people to want to start to that engine of change for themselves.
How often you release episodes then?
Weekly, I usually do a Wednesday and a Saturday recording, and then edit and then uh, produce everything for the following week.
So back to your book, Brad. I'm
Mhm.
curious, as you were writing it and trying to get it out into the world, did you have any struggles or notable moments that you had along the way?
Uh, it was more just understanding the process, getting your ISBNs. I ended up using Word to write it and then Readsy to get it into format. Use Grammarly to help with the editing and grammar, and did a lot of listening to it over and over and over, and then doing edits. And it seems like that part was probably the longest going through and just no, this ain't gonna work. This works, and then you're starting to kind of make a Caesar salad out of your work, and you're like, "Oh, I gotta stop. I'm gonna
Make
mess
a
it
Caesar
up."
salad out of your work. I think we've always all had that problem. Can I backtrack? Did I hear
Yeah,
you say right that you listened to it? Listened?
yeah. So I read it and then I listened to it too because for me, I can actually just phonically hear it a little bit better than reading and picking up some of the grammar errors.
Yeah, for benefit of our listeners, I have heard this numerous times that actually either yourself reading it and then listening to yourself while you're on a walk or something is actually a great way to sort of catch the editing things that we need to catch. So that's really great advice. And so you did self-publish then?
Yep, self-published. Same thing with podcast is publish, edit, uh, produce,
Yep.
video, sound, kind of like what you guys are doing with this. And
Sure.
yeah, it's a lot, but I think it brings value, and I think as long as I can help somebody along the way, that's really what matters for me.
Yeah, I agree. And what came next for you then after publishing the book?
Finding audience, that's always big for everybody. A lot of posting, a lot of kind of setting up Uh, just groups, a lot of that, and then started with the audiobook. Got the audiobook done at the end of last year, and then started the podcast right after. So it was book, audiobook, and then podcast.
Yeah.
Can I ask real quick on the audiobook? So did you hire out for that or did you actually narrate it yourself?
I narrated it myself. It was a process, you got to. I probably should have been a little more, had a little more tonation, but when you're reading it and you're reading so many chapters, you're kind of like just like, oh man, it's it's a process. A lot of chopping and editing and taking out the ums and ahs and ohs and other things.
Yeah, just from editing these podcast episodes, Luella, the thought of narrating one of my own books and then having to go back afterwards, I mean, it's daunting. All right, that is something I absolutely would hire out because I don't think I could do it justice.
Well, I think it's really cool that you have an accompanying podcast. I think that's a really great example of a good way for authors to market, a book like yours. So that's pretty brilliant. Um, so we are time. It's up. It is now time to do the reading. And so whenever you're ready, Brad, give us a little insight into your book and take it away. Maybe before you start, share where you're reading from so we can be oriented.
Yeah, the chapter is what is a definition of normal? So, just a little bit of background. So this is kind of just gives that premise of what kind of the whole book's about. Um, so yeah, I can do a quick reading on it. Let's begin with the idea of conforming. When you try to be normal, you are essentially conforming to a type, standard, or regular pattern. Human beings are as unique as snowflakes. Don't believe it? Look at your fingerprints, retina scans, or dental records. Each identifies you. Go deeper still, and your DNA is the blueprint that makes you who you are. Our entire lives, we are told to conform to society's expectations, even though none of us technically do. Years of conditioning groom us to fit in, to be what we are expected to be. We are easier to control when we follow the patterns. When we don't, we are labeled as abnormal. As a kid, I also tested boundaries, seeing what I could get away with. Sometimes I slipped by, sometimes I got caught. Nothing terrible, just harmless rebellion. In middle school, a craze started, tight rolling the bottom of your pants. Something so simple carried real pressure to conform. I refused. I didn't like the fad. I felt like a pariah. People stared and whispered like I was a diseased leper. Some even offered to help by rolling my pants for me. One student told me that people were talking about me because I hadn't done it. As the new kid, I already felt like an outsider. So what was the point? I wasn't going to pretend just to fit in. I'm sure you've felt social pressure like that too. It's not just school-age fads. This continues into adulthood. Drinking is a good example. Alcoholism carries stigma, but drinking itself is considered normal. That divide creates judgment. If you drink around non-drinkers, you risk being labeled an alcoholic. If you don't drink around drinkers, you are judged for abstaining. Neither is as innocent as a fashion fad, although both show how society pressures us to conform um, or risk judgment. Some define normal as occurring naturally. I disagree. Everything in nature is natural, even disasters. That doesn't mean everything is normal. If life always went exactly as expected, it would be pretty uninteresting. What is unusual, surprises, disruptions, and memorable stories. Think back. Can you remember an ordinary Tuesday 6 months ago? Probably not. But when you recall a day when something unusual happened, I have plenty of memories, good or bad. One stands out because it wasn't routine. I often bought 4 concert tickets hoping friends would come. Usually they couldn't afford them or didn't like the band, so I gave extras away. One time I booked a downtown hotel to make a day of it and enjoy the big city. When we pulled up to the hotel, my friend suddenly asked, "What did you do?" I thought I had cut someone off. Then we saw them, bus after bus, unloading little people for a convention at our hotel. Inside, the lobby was packed, and aside from the staff, my friend and I were the tallest people there. While waiting in line, the hostess waved me forward uh, to the desk. Then I felt a tug on my pant leg. A little person said, "Excuse me, you cut in front of me." I was next. Without thinking, I blurted, "I'm sorry, I didn't see you there." The lobby went so silent I could hear my own heartbeat. My words would have been harmless in most situations, but not this one. We ended up booking a hotel hosting a national convention of little people, which is a big deal for their community. That moment burned into my memory because it was so unusual. I grew up watching Little People Big World, a show about a family that faced challenges together and made the most of their lives. To outsiders, their life wasn't normal. To them, it was. Seeing hundreds of little people at the convention wasn't normal for me, but it was for them at that point in time. That's perception. If 98% of your town were little people, the definition would flip.
Thank you. That was great. I confess that a part of me just wants to announce that I can help anybody roll their pants. That's, I'm sure, a skill like riding your bike that I can still do.
I will take that one further, Luella. I wish we still rolled our pants. I still wish it was a fashion statement. I mean, it was called they called it pegging your pants when I was in high school. I
Ooh.
don't know if that was a broad term. It's got much different connotations now, but that's what it's called back then.
Yeah, I wouldn't
And
be
I really
calling it
enjoyed
that
that.
now.
I would not call it that now either, sir.
No. No.
But seriously, like the general message, I say I like to say, fly your freak flag, right? Like this is why we why we ask the special sauce question on our feature length episodes is that everybody does have unique and everybody is like the snowflakes, and I know it's cheesy, but it's true. And when you approach life that way, I think we can find a lot more happiness. And so I really like that message.
And I think too, a lot of us, especially in those adolescent years, like we feel like nobody understands us. Like somehow we're different. But I think one of the restrictions on adolescence is we don't really lean into that too much. And if when you see kids that do, they often take it in a very, I don't know, I'd say more outlandish or in your face type of way. So they want to show their difference by, the way they dress or the way they cut their hair or the way they talk. But I think deep down, one of those common traits you all have is like, I don't think anybody really understands me. I don't know if I know how to connect to people. So I think, Brad, you're really hitting kind of a sweet spot there for what I suspect a lot of people feel deep down, that nothing is really normal.
Yeah, I agree. And I think a lot of what we all kind of feel is we all want to be part of something, right? And we all want to feel like we belong. And I think that's a lot of where people kind of have that inner barrier, and just communicating and talking about it sometimes will bring that out in people where you're, oh yeah, you've had this happen. Oh, me too. And it kind of creates a stronger bond with people.
Yeah, it's very, very belonging and just feeling like you're accepted is a very strong sense that I think a lot of us have, and it's easy to imagine that that would make people conform if they weren't aware of that, desire. If you were just subconsciously acting on it instead. Do you want to tell us where readers can find your book, where they can find a little bit more about you?
Yeah, it's the book is on all platforms. It's on Amazon, Ingram Sparks. The audiobook is on AACX, Audible, and then everything else for all platforms for audio. Um, and then the podcast. It's on Spotify, but it's branched out everywhere from Spotify. And then my website, it's bradhhill.com. That has the current podcasts that are live, the books. It's also got a help and resource for people to contact for like dial 988-211 for information. And hopefully if somebody needs help, they can call and get help.
All right, very cool. And we'll post the site and the links down in our show notes. I know the book came out in 2025, but here in 2026, do you have any appearances or signings coming up on your docket?
Yeah, I will be at the Lakefly conference in Oshkosh, May 2nd. I'll have a booth there. I'll be signing copies, both paperback and hardcover. I look forward to anybody who stops in and wants to say hi.
All right. And I
Great.
assume that when you have other appearances in that, you also list those on your site, correct?
I have not yet, but I will be. Yeah.
Look at that, Luella. We extracted a task out of one of our guests.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. Also,
No
a
more
random shout out
tasks.
to Lakefly Writers Conference. Highly recommend.
Seconded. All right. Well, then at this time, I want to take a second to thank Brad for coming on and introducing our audience to his book, No One is Normal. Thanks to everyone out there for hanging out with us in the Midwest Writers Room. I'm Ken Humphrey.
And I'm Luella Schmidt. Words ignite imaginations and spark change. Never underestimate the power of storytelling.
Midwest Writers Room is a production of the Wisconsin Writers Association. Writing and editing by Luella Schmidt and Ken Humphrey. Sound design and editing by Ken Humphrey. Music for the Midwest Writers Room was written by Michael Vermeer C. For more information, please visit wiwrite.org/podcast. Thank you.